Hello, Lincoln family. One of the things I really pride ourselves on is our strategic plan. Our roadmap was written in February 2020, and it's something that we continue to return to. It guides the work that we do here at Lincoln. Today, I want to talk to you about one aspect of our strategic plan, which is called service learning. I've got 3 members of our service learning passion group, 3 educational leaders throughout each section of school that help guide the work that we're doing and guide the learning for our students. And so I'd like to introduce them to you and talk to them a little bit about what service learning looks like at Lincoln.
Hi, my name is Camille Belmont, and I'm in the high school, and I'm passionate about environmental services, actually.
My name is Dean Orvid, and I'm in the middle school, and I am passionate about community outreach and giving students some voice and choice and what they can do to help the community and help one another.
And I am Chris Horton. I'm in the elementary school as the assistant principal, and I've been a part of the passion group and service learning throughout my career around the world.
Thank you all for joining me for this important conversation. As I talk about it, service learning being embedded in our strategic plan, Lincoln has a very long history of engagement with service. One of the reasons we've included this is that we're looking at a shift from what might be called community service to service learning. Can you talk to me a little bit about the difference in those?
Yeah, so I think community service is very much an action where we are giving back to our community. Whereas service learning is a more intentional process of learning where the student is the focus. And so they're going through this whole process of perhaps investigating about a need in their community, thinking about ways in which they could work with the community and learn from the community, and developing some sort of community engagement, perhaps project. It could be advocacy-based. It could be actually working with members of that community. And so the student and their learning is always at the center of the service learning process.
I like the idea that you're talking about kind of mutually beneficial to both. How do kids choose what they're passionate about? How do they choose what they're interested in studying? How do they choose the challenge that they're going to address?
Right now, we have a 6th grade class that's working with elementary students, and they were given some time to think in small groups, and the teacher acted more as a guide or as a resource rather than steering the script on this. And ultimately, it was decided that they felt the transition from 5th to 6th grade was a bit challenging, and they thought that helping the 5th graders to come into middle school would be beneficial to the middle school community, to the 5th grade class, and to Lincoln as a whole. It's really kind of a period of asking questions and reflecting and things of that nature. So we used a similar process where students reflected and had discussions, and we used a design cycle, or in this case, a service learning cycle, for the students to ultimately make some decisions.
Okay. And so through going through that design cycle, that helped them to choose where they wanted to focus.
Yeah, and that was for a class. We've also got a service learning group for middle school, and that has been a similar process, although they spend more time having individual conversations since it's a weekly club where they meet together. And so they have more time both in that space, but outside of that space, they're constantly bringing ideas and questions to me saying, this looks like something we would love to be working on and doing. And so a lot of that is done on their own volition, but it's a similar process where there is a bit of a cycle involved.
I like that you're talking about both what we call curricular, which is kind of what we do during the school day, and in school, and extracurricular, which might be outside of class, where kids start to really follow a passion or interest, and that both of those are available. I think one of the things I often hear folks talk about, Chris, is how do we get our youngest learners involved in service? They might think that a visit to El Sebo or engaging in service might be a little bit more challenging for some of our younger learners. What does that look like in the elementary?
So I think we've done a couple of things, really. We have, in the same way, we have volunteer opportunities through Eco Club, through student leadership in student council, and things like that, which students can opt into and decide to do in their own time. And then we've also been much more thoughtful about where we structure opportunities into our curriculum. And so we're looking at all of our students having the opportunity to engage in some sort of service learning in each year within the school through the curriculum aspect that we put together. And so, for instance, our first graders this year have added into their curriculum a section that looks at our school community.
Yeah.
And so what service they can do for the people who help them within their community. And so they have spent time in the same way as in middle schoolers, interviewing and meeting with members of the community who may be maintenance staff and people who are part of our community that maybe they don't think about so often. Our fifth graders in there learning about life cycles and plants and the growing cycle have helped plant for our Kindle students to use later for their learning.
Yeah.
And so they're giving back and they're giving something in this way, but it's part of our curriculum and it's part of them looking for something that they can be involved in to support, build our community at Lincoln in the elementary school, which is more manageable and more real to the students than maybe for the older students. who
Super
can see things
tangible,
a bit
yeah.
further-
That makes
further
sense
afield.
because they're really anchored in understanding their immediate environment, the people they see on a regular basis, the people whether they're in their home or at school. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that whole process is really a great way for students to develop empathy for their community as they ask, really good questions and get to know people, get to know the fifth graders and the guards. And it just is such a great tool and avenue for building community here at Lincoln, but also beyond the walls of our school.
Empathy was the same word that came to mind for me when I was listening to you describe the root of the projects that you're doing and understanding of the experiences of others. It also makes me think about one of the reasons we wanted to focus on this topic right now was because we just hosted a weekend for our middle school and high school students. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about what the sorts of that weekend is, but also maybe talking about how it built community for us as well.
Yeah, so that weekend was super inspiring for me. We had 30 middle school and high school students take Valentine's Day and a Saturday off their busy schedules to come in and just really talk about, what matters most to me.
Sure.
And then what skills and talents do I have that I can use as an avenue for making change? And so throughout the weekend, they sat together and thought about the communities that they're part of, the communities they want to know more about, and how they could use their unique talents. Perhaps it's, students who are really good at football, wanting to use their skills in football to help create a football league for students at El Ceibo, that they could, every Sunday get together and play friendly matches. Or perhaps students who are really passionate about fashion and design, using their skills to upcycle discarded clothing that no longer has perhaps function. And they just, through that whole process, developed really good skills and questioning and planning and thinking about perhaps all the little elements of a system that could support them or also perhaps get in the way, and came up with some really inspiring project ideas, and I think felt more empowered to become leaders in their community. And the more students we can make empowered to lead change in their community, I think the stronger and more resilient our community becomes.
I think one of the things that really struck me over the course of that weekend, I think there's to see our sixth graders engaging really directly with our high school seniors, right? That crossover piece, and I think that what you spoke about earlier too, Dean, that idea of how do kids find their passion, watching kids who came in without projects, without a specific plan, develop one through listening and responding to their peers. Well, I want to tell you, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think this is, you're here because this is a place where you've chosen to put your time and energy as a part of our community, but it's also really thrilling to me to kind of hear from you about the good works that are happening with service learning across all of our sections of school. So I really appreciate you joining me for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.